Some of you, in fact, I suspect not many people are familiar with Ambergris Caye. It's an island. It was originally the southernmost extension of the Yucatan Peninsula. This is the midsection of the island right here. The island's about 20 miles north and south. And again, this used to seem like the Florida Peninsula is. That's what Ambergris Caye was, an extension of the Yucatan Peninsula. And the Mayan Indians, a few hundred years ago, cut a canal across it from east to west. That little white line right there, see where it just comes down out of the Yucatan Peninsula? There's a canal there now which made this an island, and with whatever happened, that became Belize, and then north of there is Mexico. It has basically a very tropical climate. It's 75 to 85 degrees year-round. It doesn't vary much at all. When you look at the windiest month and the sunniest month and the coldest month, you see very little variation across all 12 months. So it's a very predictable place to go as far as weather concerned. For whatever reason, they practically never have real storms there, hurricanes. Very, very unusual to ever get one. They have the second longest barrier reef. Is there anything to point with?
Yeah, I looked from last time.
Yeah, fingers.
They got the second longest barrier reef in the world. Can you go down on that a little tighter? That white line is a barrier reef. It actually comes from way up in Mexico and goes way down below Ambergris Caye. It's the second longest, and I think it's the second largest barrier reef in the world there. The prevailing winds are easterly, and they have had their problems with the sargassum seaweed that all of Mexico's had now for some times, and I will make a point about that because there is an area where you do get a break from that. But you fly into Belize City, which is on the mainland, a little bit southwest of there. It's maybe a 10-minute flight over from Belize City, and you fly into San Pedro, down in the San Pedro's right here, and you fly out of here on a Cessna 208. It's the only thing I think they run. There's two airlines that run there. It's about $175 round trip for that part of the flight when you get to Belize City. Have any of you guys ever fished for bonefish? Yes. Okay, yeah, that's more than I expected, really. I'll date myself a little bit, but I started when I was about 5. I've been fishing for about 73 years, and I've never caught a fish that I enjoy quite as much. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I used to like to hunt, and I hunted for a long time in a lot of places, and that urge left me. But actually, bone fishing is far more hunting than it is fishing, really. And there's two basic ways to do it. You can fish with a guide or an outfitter out of a boat, and of course you'll be on the front end of a flat skiff, or in Belize you'll be on there's practically no flat skiffs down there. Almost everything the guides use are pangas, they call them. It's a 23-foot boat, and they pole them with a wooden pole, almost every one of them. I truly have not seen a fiberglass or a graphite pole there. And I was at El Pescador. You guys heard in a previous meeting about El Pescador, somebody? Am I dreaming that, or did somebody tell me?
Yeah, Kent.
Okay, yeah. And I've been to El Pescador. The first time I went there, I think a lot of you guys probably remember Rob and Jenny Woodruff, who were guides at Lower Mountain Fork in Oklahoma. They were married there, and Rob used to take 2 groups in July and October, about 20 people, and it was a 2-for-1 trip. Myself and a friend went down there in about 2014, and we stayed at El Pescador. It's a great trip. El Pescador is a great lodge. Super good food, really nice facility, and they always have a guide portion of it. I don't even know I shouldn't even say. I don't remember seeing anything about you just being able to go stay there and go fish on your own somewhere. They do a guided portion. If you have a 6-day trip, you'll have 4 or 5 days guided and stuff like that. And I think we were there for 5 days and had four guided days, if I remember. In fact, I went a day early and had 6. But what I was going to say was that you're going to be fishing out of pangas for the most part, and you're going to fish with a guide. So you're going to stay in the boat, and they're going to take you down below San Pedro and out in that area. Most of them fish. They don't need to go any further than this. El Pescador would be about right here. And you'll fish this area here with El Pescador. And I enjoyed the trip thoroughly, but what I discovered right off the bat was that as you go up that, there's a road on the far east side of the island that goes up most of the way up the island. El Pescador, it's paved where El Pescador is. But right across the street inland, in the mangroves there, there's about a 25 or a 30 yard little stretch you walk through there, and they'll put, there's a dock right there, their dock, and they'll put a canoe or they'll put a sit-on-top kayak, and I did that every afternoon when I was there. And I actually caught better fish, larger fish certainly, fishing in there on my own, and I discovered that if you see water there, and that's not an exaggeration, there's fish in there, and there's bonefish in all of it. A lot of it has permit in it. There's lots of baby tarpon all through here all year. They get real large tarpon, I think it's August, September, and October, migratory fish come in. And I fished there, as I say, back in that big open, I'm going to say, they must be in here because that looks familiar, but I fished that area all in there in the afternoons. And to me, and it's probably an indicator of a low IQ, but standing on the bottom, I really like. And moving along and seeing fish rather than standing up in the front of the boat and the guy behind you, of course, he's on a polling platform, yay high. He'll be saying, fish 45 feet, 10 o'clock, which means that out here you may or may not see that fish, and you'll just cast there, and if he'll say, bring it in, okay, now pull up and cast again 10 feet further, and put you in front of a fish, and then a lot of times you'll just hear, strip, 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 stop, strike, and you set the hook, and you got a fish, you didn't see it, but when you're wading, you're seeing the fish. You literally see them when you cast it. So the do-it-yourself part appealed to me very much. Rob Woodruff, in fact, told me about Jeff Spiegel and Kyle Francis, which is where I was. I've been there 3 times now. After I was at El Pescador, I went to Kyle Francis, 3 times now. And I fished, and it doesn't make much difference what time you fish, but I fished it in August and October. This last year, to be honest, in the middle of the afternoon on some of those days, it got hot enough where normally there had been fish in water as deep as this little step right here. There weren't fish there anymore. You had to get out where you maybe had a couple of feet of water where it'd be a little bit cooler to have fish. So it did affect it a bit. Mentioned the airlines. Kyle Francis, if we can go to that thumb drive.
Yep.
These are the few pictures that I have left. What they offer is food every bit as good as El Pescador was. It's absolutely terrific food. You have 3 meals. You have the option of fishing off of a boat paddleboard or different models of sit-on-top kayaks. And for 2 guys that want to fish together, they have East Cape's canoes, which is a little 12-foot, real lightweight skiff with a square stern that they don't use outboard motors there because, if I'm not mistaken, Belize doesn't allow a non-resident to run an outboard motor. So it has a little slight platform off the back. If 2 guys want to go together, you can either paddle it or one guy can pole and the other guy can fish out of the front. So you got those 3 different ways to go. And what they do is, in the morning, out of this is a little 14.5-foot skiff with a 15 horsepower Yamaha that makes that thing go about 70 miles an hour. It's hard to believe how fast it'll go. But what they'll do is they'll tie onto a boat paddleboard or a sit-on-top kayak or whatever you're in, and they'll take you, and I'll show you some of the areas you can fish, but they take you out there. You got good phone service. If you want to move or if you need to come in, if you get sick or something, you call them, they'll come get you. They'll move you to another spot in the afternoon. But I always found enough fish where I never did have to move a lot like that. And I normally paddled in and fished my way in. Can you get the next one on? Now, this is one of the, there's 2 guys would stay in. This is what I stayed in. They have 3 of these units, and then there's one that accommodates 4 people. And what you have is here in the front, you get in, there's a bed, and then in the back, there's a bathroom, and there's a shower stall there. There's no air conditioning, but I never suffered with not having the air conditioning. I really didn't. It's cool at night, and they have the big stand-up fans in there, and I put a fan on myself. I never had any trouble with the heat, and I don't like to be hot and don't like to be sticky. But those are some of the dwellings that he has, and this is on, and I'm going to mention another place in a minute because he's opening up a new place this spring. Would you go to the next one if you would? That is, I think that's the old bathhouse, because when he first had those cabins there, he didn't have the bathrooms on the back of them with the shower. Go ahead to the next one. And this is a view of the places where you stay are there, and the main house is in the front, and then the dock and all is off to the right there. Go to that next picture. That's another view of that. Same thing. Go to another one. I think that's still, I don't know if I have a picture of the four person. That's it. Yeah, that's the one that 4 people stay in. Go to your next one, and if there are any more.
No, that's it.
Yeah, as I say, if somebody can find out what happened to those pictures when he went to chemical sewer, it would be well appreciated, but I know you can't.
Now, where is that at? And point it out on the map.
Yeah. Come down. Come down. Yeah.
There it is, right
Yeah, but come down. Come down. This is Kyle Francis. Why that's Kyle Francis, nobody knows.
Okay.
That's just a little tiny point on the shore. This is where the actual camp is right here.
Okay.
And you're about 30 minutes from San Pedro, and the way they work, you fly yourself into San Pedro, and then Jeff will pick you up, or have one of the guys that's on staff pick you up at the airport, and they bring you by boat up here to up the west side of the island. This is about midway up the island. This is roughly 10 miles from San Pedro. And you come in, and here's the plot of land where those cabins and everything is on. You come in through this cut, and from here, bring it out again. See, here's your dwellings. You can actually see them laid out there. Bring it out further, 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 further. Drop it down, if you will. Down this way. Sorry. Okay. This, to kind of give you an idea where you are, from right here to just short of this island is a mile. This is about a mile here. So you're talking about, you're up all the way up here to this other cut, and on top of that island up there, that's about 2.5 or 3 miles as far as it is. And they'll pull you in anywhere you want to go. And what's hard to fathom about this is you see land like this and you see that water, and naturally we think of, you got a little ways and then it gets deep. It doesn't. These are all flats. You can fish all the way down this shoreline. You can fish, come down this, I'm sorry. No.
Anyway.
Yeah, and then this is Kyle Francis here. You can fish this whole shoreline. I've fished and caught a lot of fish in this dead cove in here. There's a cut going in here. All this area here. In August when I was here, that little tiny, narrow spit of land right there has a white, big, sandy, kind of a flat right there, and it's got a lot of mud on this side. And I had my heart broken by 2 huge permit here the second trip I was there. But what I normally do is I paddle over, tie up to the mangroves just about the end of the island right there, and then I kind of walk around slowly and fish this whole flat, and you can fish out this way. You can fish a good ways in this direction. You can fish this whole shoreline up here, and there's lots of fish there. But when I was paddling up this August to tie up there, I got maybe 45 yards or so from the mangroves on the edge of the island, and there was a jaguar there. The only jaguar I've ever seen. And what a jaguar was doing right there, I've never figured out. But there's wild pigs there.
What weight rod were you using for it?
Huh?
What weight rod did you use for that jaguar?
I'm at a loss.
Fast 8-weight.
Bring it down again. All right, right there. Yeah, and this, there, really and truly, I can keep pointing at this map and saying there's fish, there's fish, there's fish, but there's fish everywhere. There really is. And in fact, bring the land up now. Keep going. Oh, this island right here is not far at all still. It's probably 1/3 of the way back down. But if you'll see this here, this is literally this is excuse me, this island right here. This flat down here goes for about 2 miles right here. And you could be dropped off like I was there. I didn't even take a boat down there. They just dropped me off with a Yeti and when you're on your boat, they pack a Yeti, a round Yeti, and you'll have lunch. They'll give you 3 big liters of water, fruit juice, a Coke, a beer, whatever you want in it, and drop me off there. And I just stayed right off there and just fished here. This flat right here, again, goes down about 2.5 miles, and then there's just acres of turtle grass all spread through here. And you could fish a whole week right there and never touch all that. And there's some really nice fish in all this area too here. And even without my prescription change, I could see the fish right here. But when they're in the turtle grass, they got a lot harder for me. Come back, if you will, to where Kyle Francis is here, right here. If you look right here, when you leave the camp right here, this cut goes right through here, and you can catch mutton snapper, you can catch snook, there's grunts in this cut here, and then there's snook all through here, and there's a lot of baby tarpon in these kind of dead areas like this. I never have fished for the tarpon because I was always by myself, but if a couple of guys took that little, what did I say it was, East Cape Skanoe, you could take that Skanoe and come right there and you could fish all day and as many days as you wanted to in here for baby tarpon and snook in these mangroves. This cut goes into a big, huge lagoon here. This whole shoreline here fishes well. This island out here, I've caught fish on this island. I've caught fish in here. I've caught fish on this sort of an island, although this is mostly just scattered clumps of sand with mangroves that are up out of the water through here. And I won't belabor how many places there are, because a lot of this I haven't even fished. But there is some of the guys, come bring it back down again if you would. Some of the guys that went camp this last time, a little more. This area up in here, and especially this inland area here that I've never been into, they said there's a lot of permit and all too. A couple of the guys caught permit in those areas right there. Make it where, come out some more. I'll stop and go up. What he's done now, you come down a little more with the land. Bring the island down. Bring the island down. I'm sorry.
Can't say north or south.
All right. Here's your canal again. Now bring it up. I'm sorry, not too far. All right. That is that reef. The only place in Belize where that reef comes into land is right here and right here. And that's about 2 miles right there that no boats can get past this reef right here. And his new property is right, literally where my finger is right there. That's going to open in the spring. He has this Bacalar Chico, there's a 16,000 acre national park here. That when I was at El Pescador, and if you were at El Pescador, if you heard about anybody, we're going to run up north, and they take off at 5 o'clock in the morning to go up there to go fish for tarpon especially. They were coming all the way around the back side of the island and coming through another cut from the west side and coming here to fish for big tarpon. And there's lots of permit in here, and a lot of big permit that are in a shallower area than you normally find them, like off here in those areas that I was talking about fishing. And he's opening this area in the spring. He has this front right here, where you have 2 miles of just step in the water. There's permit and there's bonefish. I went up with him on the last day when I was there in August and fished it one day. And as I was telling somebody, he proved to me that I needed new glasses. But also, we saw 2 pods of permit, and sheesh, in 2 hours we were there. A lot of bonefish in there, and they're always like that. And this is one of those natural phenomena that, it's not a phenomenon, but you can go to the bank with anywhere we have a reef like this, you have a potential for large bonefish. Because those big bonefish will come out here when the tide goes out, and then they come back in when the tide comes in. And there are big bonefish caught inside of reefs as a rule. And this place is no exception right here. So this camp right here will offer you the ability to simply get up and walk maybe as far as your car is parked, if it's that far, and get in the water, and you got 2 miles to wait. And it actually, the shore comes off, it gets maybe it's much higher than this is to where my feet are, above the edge of the water right there, and you can look down in the water just simply walking along. You can spot fish walking on dry land and get in the water to fish. And this area, he has, I want to make sure I remember exactly, he's having a special skiff built that's not a panga, and the guides that come in here, that's a 2-hour run from down in San Pedro to get all the way up there and come across and to fish this area in back La Chica. So there's no guides to speak of fishing, and if they are, you never see them until 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and they leave in the afternoon to get back in time. So it's not a heavily fished area at all, nor is any of that other side. I didn't mention this, but I can say with no embellishment, I've spent probably 24 or 25 days fishing out of Kyle Francis, and I've never seen a guidebook up there where Kyle Francis is and fishing above there. There'll be some south of there, and the further south you go, the more there are. And again, in their defense, it's not that they're lazy or anything like that. They just, if they're in San Pedro or like where El Pescador is, El Pescador, you don't have to bring it down, but El Pescador is over on the east shore. Well, they just run right down and come across that canal, and they cut into that big area that I was showing with all those flats and those islands and stuff there. There's no reason to go anywhere else really for having guys. In many instances, it's people that have never fished for bonefish before, so they frequent those areas. They don't come up that west side, but they're going to be there eventually. And eventually they'll be up here too. But right now, they actually had to make some road improvements to even get a truck this far up to bring lumber and stuff to where he's building this camp. So this area is very much unfished. But he's having I know you guys don't care what the name of it is. I'm not going to look for it long, but it's a boat built by, I've seen the guy's name before too, but it's an 18-foot boat, and it's not Kevlar, it's something else. It's even lighter. And what they'll do in this new camp and at the old camp that's over on the west side, if you want to fish with a guide, that's fine. A guide will come pick you up there and take you out and fish. And that'll be the same way here, but rather coming in from the bottom, he's going to have a boat at that camp on the back of his property, and the guide will drive up there and stay at the camp where you are, and rather than wait for him to pick you up, you eat breakfast together, go get in the boat and go fish. And the boat will be there all the time. I'll give you some of our correspondences. Does anybody have any questions about like fishing for bonefish?
Did you see many shark in the Cayo Francis Flats area?
I did. I honestly did. I've seen a lot of rays, a lot of just regular stingrays, and I've seen eagle rays, big beautiful rays, great big, like a shiny jet black with kind of cream colored spots all over them. I've seen those, but I haven't seen any shark. A lot of barracuda there. A lot of barracuda, but sharks I've not seen.
What kind of tides are usually there?
Tides?
Yeah.
You probably don't get much more variation than 18 inches or something like that. It's not a great variation. And I found, I've caught a lot of fish when the tide was, I said, well, I have. I've caught a lot of fish when the tides were supposed to be kind of non-existent. It's just so much flats, and if there's fish there, they're eating. The biggest fish, the biggest bonefish I've ever caught, I caught the first time at Kyle Francis, and I was on this, I was just up this, I was actually coming back in. I was going to come back in and eat a bite of lunch and then paddle over here, or have him take me over there to fish this other side. And maybe a half a mile further up, I was paddling back, and there was a patch of turtle grass, maybe, it wasn't much bigger than maybe half this table, up near the bank, and I saw a tail come out. So I got out of the sit on top kayak, and I pushed the rod through to hold it in place, and I went over and I cast and cast. Nothing happened. I walked up and looked, and where the fish went, I don't know, because it was sand around. I should have seen him. But when I walked over that way, I had noticed 3 nice fish came by me traveling as I got out of the kayak, going north. And when I left there and came back, 3 more came. So I got out to where the kayak was, and I thought a second, I'd be a dummy sit here and watch fish fly by. So I cast a spawning gotcha, a size 6, out to about where those fish came off the shore. And like 45 seconds later, here came 3 fish. The biggest 2 were on the outside, and I'm just sitting there like somebody with an indicator and a nymph under it, sort of. And fish got 15 feet, and I twitched it about twice, and the biggest one just ran over and kind of grabbed it on the fly. And that's the way I caught the biggest fish I ever caught. It was just sitting there waiting for him. And again, it's much to your advantage that you have such good water clarity there. You can see so well.
Being on the back, even on a windy day in the back, it's still sight
You
fishing.
can get out of the wind there. You
Okay,
saw
yeah.
how you can find east, west, north, south ways to get out of it. And if you're in the wind, of course, like anywhere else, it's hard to see fish then, unless they're really shallow water and you see their backs out or you see their tails. Other than that, but as far as seeing them moving, it's much. It is for me with my old eyes. Somebody might be able to see them better, but I can't very well when it's windy. I would suggest this. On a flat skiff, I think that's why they invented double haul cast, is because of flat skiffs, because you might see a fish 80 or 90 feet away that you might need to reach. I can't double haul for squat, but in reality, when you're in the water here, and that back wall right there where that, mounted fish is right there, that's common distance, if not closer. You're going to be seeing fish from 30 to 50 feet away. And as long as you don't move real fast, you'll find fish like that. And on the kayak, or on the even better vision on one of the boat paddle boards, you've got a cooler there to sit down, and you can work that paddle board with a double-bladed kayak paddle. But then it's easy enough to stand up and look around. You have even better vision. And as long as you don't make a lot of noise, these fish, if I were going a first-time fishing trip for bonefish, it would be Belize. I've not seen anything. I've not read of a place better. The worst place you can go would be someplace like Biscayne Bay below Miami, or the Florida Keys, or some particular places in the Bahamas. Those fish have PhDs in not getting caught. They see lots of flies, lots of fishermen. Miami's got 1 million people, something like that, if not more. So those fish are difficult to catch. These fish are dumb in a post. They have an empty stomach, I like to say, where their brain's supposed to be. And I have on more than one occasion been insufficient with my cast and dropped the fly behind them as far as your feet. Fish turn around, come back and pick up the fly. And you don't see that where they're fished very heavily. These fish really are easy fish because they're not pressured. That's the key to it. And I would suggest to you, if you're going to do a trip like this, it's certainly not mandatory, but if you have a rod that loads quicker, it is to your advantage, absolutely. At the very least, even if you have and I'm an old dinosaur, I fish bamboo and fiberglass fly rods. I haven't owned a carbon fly rod in a number of years. But even if you have a fast action graphite fly rod, overload it with a heavier line. And the best approach I've found is to have about maybe 12 feet of fly line and your leader outside the tip, and then pull off about 20 feet to take behind you. Flip that behind you, and just walk like, when you're moving, walk like this. All you are right there is just a flip it back, and you got one false cast, and then you can throw it, and you can throw 50 feet of line real easy like that. But that's done a lot easier. If I didn't have any fly rods and somebody told me I was going to fish with a graphite rod, I'd go on some fiberglassflyrodders.com or some fly fishing site and look at the classifieds, and I'd look for an old IM6 graphite rod, a slower, deeper loading, easier loading in close with less line out, because it's an advantage. If you're waiting, you just don't need a rod that casts 80 or 90 feet. You really don't. Flies, primarily size 6 and size 8. That's what I have in great majority. I'd have a few 2s, a half dozen permit flies. They'd all be crabs, and maybe just 3 different sink rates, some small lead eyes, some brass eyes, And, well, for the permit, probably a heavier brass eye, a small brass eye, or red eye, and a bead chain eye. For bonefish, you don't normally, I mean, most of the fish you see are going to be in shallow water. And when they're in turtle grass, an unweighted fly is ideal. And if you tie, and if you can find these commercially too, a horror or some Chico Fernandez fly. One of them is a horror, the other one is bonefish special. That's a fly tied with no weight, just the hook. But the primary tie is deer hair that is on the same side of the fly that the bend of the hook is. So it actually will, and they work, because I've tied some and I've used some that I bought commercially. Even with no weight, they don't have to have dumbbell flies under that hook to make that hook ride up. That deer hair is buoyant enough to where it has a real slow sink, which is an advantage in the turtle grass, and it also rides with the hook up. You're not going to get hooked up. And if you had some size 6 and 8s, and you had a couple of maybe 3 different shrimp patterns, crab patterns, bonefish will eat a crab in a heartbeat, especially a small crab. And some like a size 6, come on, Ray. What's the damn fly that everybody in the world ties and uses?
Charlie?
Charlie or Cloud Charlie?
Gotcha.
No, it didn't necessarily recognize the bonefish fly. It's, it has dumbbell eyes, tied very sparsely. Hook rides up.
Clouser.
A clouser, thank you. A clouser minnow. If you had some size 6 clouser minnows, maybe in a light color and you see some tied commercially, and you can tie your own, of course, but foxy red bonefish clouser, those work real well. It doesn't take a lot of flies. Again, these fish they're hungry and they're dumb, and that's the truth. I go way overboard, and I'm guilty of it. Everything I fish for, I have 7 times more flies than I need for everything I fish for. But you do yourself a favor, 3 dozen flies that cover those bases. And of course, if you're gonna try to fish for baby tarpon, you could take some poppers, some fairly big deceivers, some tarpon toads, kinky muddler, something to imitate bait fish, and some poppers, and that's all you need for that. And for tarpon, take some 50 or 60 pound mono, go 7 feet of it straight. Put a perfection loop in the end. Don't worry about having a tapered leader for that. With those big flies, will turn over easy, and you don't have to worry about, if a fish, I say you don't have to worry about it, but if a fish gets you up in the mangrove, which is possible, you got a lot more chance of getting him out if you've got 40 to 60 pound fluorocarbon or mono. Usually it's shallow enough where mono, you don't even need the fluorocarbon, and the mono will hold the fly up in the water column a little better. And that was what I'd suggest in the way of rods. If you had, like on this area here, if you had a 7 and a 9 weight, the ideal. A 6 weight would be out of the question for some of the smaller fish. But a 7 works well overlined, and a 9 works well overlined for permanent. And of course, in a pinch, you can fish the 9 weight for bonefish, even though they're small, if you have designs on permanent. And those baby tarpon can be accommodated with a 9 weight rod too, and snook as well, and the mud snapper and the other.
You say that the permit there are relatively easy to catch compared to other
No,
places?
there are no such thing as easy to catch permanent. I caught at El Pescador. I caught one an hour and 40 minutes in the first morning. I was a hero for one supper. And that's the only one I've caught since then. And I've been in there a good bit. And that area that I was talking about, and you don't have to blow it up, but right there on the other side of that sand flat, above it, right up there where I saw the jaguar, I fished I didn't have a flight out of San Pedro until about 12:30 or something like that. So they took me up there early in the morning, and I was fishing off that point, and I just turned around that point and looked at that big mud flat, and there was 2 sickle-tail permit. They must have weighed 25 pounds apiece, 2 of them. They were just in that mud flats, maybe as big as this room right now. And they literally, what makes it so difficult is they're like, that's the way they go. And you're trying to figure a way to get a fly. And I cast and cast and cast. And I had a bonefish fly on. I think I had a some bonefish fly, not very big. And I made a cast, and the permit actually turned in properly to where my fly was going, and bigger than Dickens. As soon as that fly hit went down, both those tails went right to this fly. I strip set hooked up, took off, and I look, and there's those two tails still in the water, and a little bonefish had grabbed the fly. And I know he was a small fish because I was able to stop him like that. And I popped him off and actually got my line back in and tied another fly on and tried another couple of minutes at least, and never could get a fly in front of them. And in the end, they turned, and I mean perfectly, put their ass right towards me and just swam away. It was their version of a moon, I guess, but they were gone, and they just swam straight away. But that's really the only, well, this last trip at Rocky Point, the place up there, I did cast to some permit there, but they were on the move, and I didn't even get close to them. Permit are just plain hard to catch. They are. And I don't have any experience. I know what I've read about them and talked to people there and talked to Jeff about them. A lot of times do everything perfectly. And those fish will be feeding, and you put a crab right there in front of it, and they'll come look at it and just swim off. There's no telling.
So, you need a fishing license? They have a fishing license there, or through the lodge? Or?
It seems like I bought one time. I didn't buy one this last time.
Currently, the system is down, like in 2022, it was down, like their computer system, so there was no way to even get you a fishing license, so you didn't have to buy one.
Been down for 2 years.
It is a Central American country.
Probably
People are
is.
super friendly, real nice. Like San Pedro, a nice town. There have been some things that happen there, but there's things happen everywhere. But as far as Belize City now, there's plenty of places to stay away from in Belize City. But you're only there right at the airport, and you hop a plane and you come across.
English or Spanish speaking?
Oh, primarily Spanish, but many of them speak English. It's very common. In fact, if you go into San Pedro in the shops and stuff, it's going to be English.
English is the official language, so all the signs are in English. Yeah.
It's a combo of English, Spanish, and profanity.
The food and drink, that's all lodge provided, I would guess.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what, let me look at this, because there's some stuff. I made sure he gave me all the information that I might have.
I was concerned about the food and drink.
And when I say the food is terrific, if somebody's here, El Pescador, you remember how good that food was. The food here is just, Jeff was actually, the guy Jeff Spiegel that owns the lodge, he's from Connecticut. He ended up in San Francisco and was either a producer for a heavy metal band, or no, a heavy metal recording studio, and then I think he managed some bands. And when you talk to him, you have to make sure you talk loud enough, because he was at a lot of those concerts too. And then he went to chef school and was a chef for about 10 or 12 years. And when he moved down to Belize, that's what he had. He had a restaurant there, and had a real well-known restaurant, and ran it for a number of years, and then found out about this place where Kyle Francis is the only spot on Ambergris Key, if I'm not mistaken, that has black soil. And there have been people there for hundreds of years, Indians and what. If you're walking around and you step on something, damn, it looks like pottery, it's going to be pottery. There have been people there for eons and eons. It's kind of a neat place. He grows his own stuff for the herbs and seasonings and stuff like that. Grows a lot of that there. Grows some of the fruit there at the place and all that. And it's an unusual spot right there because of that black dirt. It's Flood Tide Boat Works is the people that are making that boat for him. And the new campus is going to be Rocky Point Permit Campus, is going to be the name. And normally they expect, it's been his experience that on the camp, the main camp, this camp that has this he normally has a full is about 8 people. And usually half those people will do a couple of to 3 days guided trips where a guy will come pick them up there and all. And the rates, again, you fly to Belize City and you fly yourself over on either Mayan Air or Tropical Air, into San Pedro. He picks you up there, then you're on him from there. All your food, anything you want at the camp is there. If you do alcohol, he's got like a little honor system thing where you put some money in a bucket there. But Cokes, fruit juice, Schweppes carbonated water, soft drinks and all that is part of the part that's in your cost. His rates right now at that camp are $3.25 per person per night. And he said if a group came as a full camp, he would bring that down. And he said it averages out to where if you're there on a 6-night trip fishing 2 guided days, it's about $2,500 a person. So it would be, you can figure about $1,900 to $2,000 in if you don't do the guided days, because you'd be splitting half of that $600 a day. You'd have 300 and 300 of those 2 days. But you can have a guide for as much as little as you want. That's immaterial to them. That they don't care about that. The Rocky Point camp is going to open this spring, which I did go up and fish the last afternoon when I was there, and I'm going back this spring when it does open. His schedule there is going to be, you'll fly into, now this is to initiate it, because they still don't know exactly, the transporting up there. They're going to see if they have hiccups and stuff like that. But they're going to be set up to where it is you'll come in on a Sunday and spend the night in San Pedro, and then they'll pick you up 9 o'clock and transfer you up, and then Friday at noon, transfer you back again. So that means if you come up at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, you'll get up there at 10 to 10:30ish, unpack. You can fish for 6 hours that day. And again, it's just walking out and getting in the water and going fish. Or you can fish in the back in the lagoon there that we were looking at. Are the same personal watercraft that sit on top kayaks and stuff. Or if you fish with a guide, you'll just go right out from there. But on that Monday through Friday, you can fish Monday afternoon and all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, and then fish Friday morning. Come in at 11 o'clock and clean up and take off for 12. They leave noon on Friday. So it's a 4-night trip, and that's $1,800. It's just what his initial price is. His words. Rocky Point permit camp schedule will be Monday 9 a.m. transfer up, Friday noon transfer back, 4 nights. He said, we'll do this to start, as the logistics of transfers and provisioning and stuff is something we need to be able to do efficiently. And he's talking about getting his own provisions in there to run the camp for the food and stuff and all that week. Make sure they don't have any hiccups with getting that stuff up there and all. As things progress, and when the road up there is improved, logistics become much less of a hurdle, and probably just add a night on to that menu, I would think. And I guess that's about everything with it. I can just say that I've enjoyed it immensely. Jeff is as good a guy as you'll ever run into. He's just a people person, never a problem. I've never seen anybody there unhappy about anything. He had a guy working for him one time that he shit canned, but as far as the guest goes, he hadn't had any problem there. I certainly haven't. I've met really nice people there. Food's great. The fishing's great. It's easy. They'll move you around. They'll pick you up. There's nothing to really be unhappy about. So it's a good camp.
Do they have any equipment, say you brought a rod and broke it or
he's
something?
got it.
Yeah.
He's got Scott, high-end Scott graphite, lamps and reels. He's got leaders, fly lines. When I say fly, I'm talking about fly lines. He has a drawer with just a pile of 7-weight, 8-weight, 9-weight lines if something happened to your line. And there's always that chance, and especially up at the Rocky Point, there's coral up. The reef is coral, and there's coral in a bit. So it's the kind of place where if a fish goes the wrong way and pulls your line against it, it'll shred a fly line pretty quick. So yeah, all that's available.
So when you're wading in sand or shells or?
For the most part, it's kind of like you can make the statement if you go down here into the marsh, the closer you get to the Gulf, and if you've got cordgrass there, you can consistently depend on that to be sand. Is that you guys' impression?
Yeah, the closer you get to the.
Yeah, the
wedge.
closer you get, if you're south of Highway 1, and if there's a good stand of cordgrass right there, you're going to have a good firm bottom right there. And that's the way this is. Now, you can here's the camp. You can wade this shoreline right here. You can wade all the way up into there. You can wade from here. You can wade inland standing. But if you get out in the middle, and if you get out in the middle here, it's soft. But around the areas that you wade, you can wade this shoreline right here. You can, for some reason, this one's soft. You can wade this whole shoreline here, all the way back into there. You can wade along here. You can wade this island right here, and the other islands that are just showing up right there. You just pull a kayak, either stick it in or tie it to something, or pull it up on the shore and just get out. And as long as you don't get way away from the island, and really that's where the fish are going to be anyway. I find when I'm paddling across, a lot of times in the just wide open areas, you don't see many fish. But around the islands and stuff, for some reason, I don't know.
What kind of footwear do you wear?
Pardon?
What kind of footwear do you wear when you're wading?
I would say that if you're planning on going to this new camp, get some good sturdy footwear because of coral and rocks. Normally, I have worn successfully at this camp around most of the places that I fish. I wear a pair of, they're Orvis, and they're kind of like a tennis shoe. They're an approach shoe, I think. They've got a little adhesive, sort of a little booty that comes out of the shoe and gets around here. And then I wear neoprene or wrap. And wrap it real tight right there and nothing gets in them. But I have some older Orvis boots that are about a 7 or an 8-inch boot. That's a very firmly constructed, more like a wading boot for freshwater. It'll be good, and that's what I would wear up there because of the coral and the rocks. Your clothes are the typical, fast drying clothes. Wear a hat, lip balm, sunscreen, mosquitoes. There's mosquitoes there around the camp in the evenings, but who's old enough to remember drive-in theaters? Drive-in theaters. You remember the little ringy-dingy things that you light and put in the car and
Fleet
keep it? That's,
coils.
you get those, that's part of the package. And he's got a galvanized bucket with sand in it, puts an empty Coke bottle in it, and you stick one into that little curlicue and light it in the room. I've never had mosquitoes in the room. Those things were, and he'll put those where you eat supper normally, unless it's inclement, like really windy, or if it's raining real hard or something. He's got like a gazebo, and kind of this little thing right there is a thatched roof gazebo right there, and that's where you normally eat, is out there. And he's got a couple of those things there. And if you put a little deet on and with that combination, you don't have a problem with mosquitoes.
Fits.
And I guess that are there any questions about anything? There's 9% hotel tax on what I talked about, and there is a $10 a day charge for the national park to fish on the inside behind his new camp. In that area is $10 a day, $50 for a season, I think, or something like that. So that was the other expenses that I forgot to mention.
Best time to go, Jim. Optimum times.
Well, it's gotten to be kind of a conundrum there because the most wind-free months are the hotter months. And even though we could probably get in all kind of arguments about climate change and stuff like that, and I'm more prone to be sarcastic, and I use Montana as an example. I lived there in 73 and 74, and if somebody tries to tell me Montana's not warmer than it used to be, you're either a dumbass or you're not paying attention, because I can assure you it's warmer. And I think this place is the same way. As I think I told somebody before we started, this trip, I did it in August, and some places that I had found fish pretty consistently before. And it's a shallow area with just a lot of wide open, with some mangrove just spits out or coming out. It's a great place to fish, but it's only about yay deep on low and maybe like this on high tide, and I didn't find fish in there this trip, and I noticed that that water was warm. I moved off a little further out and found fish in water that was yay deep, stuff like that. But it is, so to get out of the wind, it's hot. And when I say hot, it's only 10 degrees hotter or so than it is at the other times. I caught a lot of fish in October there. And the first August that I went there, I caught the most fish that I've caught. But there's not enough, I don't think there's enough variation in the climate or the wind or anything like that. The rainy season is, you know, they don't know what rain is even compared to, well, here you can't say anymore because we're in a drought. But by and large, you got more problems with rain and stuff here than you do there. It's very, very constant, weather conditions. Depend on an east wind. And that, when I was talking about that, that barrier reef in that 2-mile section coming into land, that keeps, there's not much sargassum comes into that 2-mile stretch. The other areas, and like down, you know, really and truly, I don't know how it was this year, but there have been a few years since I was there. When we went to El Pescador, I must say it was 9 or 10 years ago. Every morning we'd get up, there were guys out there with rakes, raking that brown seaweed. I said, well, that's neat that they're raking that up. But if you leave it there, it starts to deteriorate and it stinks. And they have, you may have seen pictures, they have mountains of sargassum where they pull it away from there and go bring it inland somewhere and dump it on. It's a problem. It really is. And where it stays in the water and deteriorates like that, it puts a stain in the water and it can't be good for fish. So, is there any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Don't help me with my wife must have thought y'all gonna help me with my grocery list because she put that on here too.